This is the Darren Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz.
Paltrocast.
I've been interviewing musicians, comedians, and all sorts of entertainers for almost 20 years. Joan Rivers, Flavor Flav, Paris Hilton, members of Guns N' Roses and the Eagles, and countless others. This show is about artists and why they do what they do.
Paltrocast.
On episode 11 of the Paltrocast, I spoke with three artists from very different backgrounds: Jon Spencer, Chris Barron, and strongman Hafthor Björnsson. First up is my chat with Jon Spencer, whose latest album is Spencer Sings the Hits. Spencer is currently on the road in support of the album. Did you have the title first, or when in the process did you come up with the title?
As a matter of fact, I did have the title first. A friend of mine, a local writer, guy named by the name of Todd Hansen. He's one of the guys that started The Onion, a satirical newspaper. He, a couple of years ago, told me that he had an idea for an album title, and that I should do an album record called Spencer Sings the Hits. And I think, and he even described what it should look like, the cover and everything. And but I think his concept was that it would actually be kind of like a crooner record, like a genuine pop hits or something. So I liked the title, and I used that. And I didn't take the cover concept or the actual concept for the content and the album itself. But yeah, the credit goes to Todd Hansen, and that's why he's the executive producer of Spencer Sings the Hits. So I had the title first.
How long did you spend actually making the album? Did you write any of it in the studio?
No, I wrote the songs by myself, which is not typical for me. Usually I write with other people. I like to collaborate. But when, I didn't have a band, the Blues Explosion was kind of stopped, Heavy Trash had kind of stopped, and I wanted to have a band. But so instead of trying to find people and putting a band together, I figured I'll just, make a record, do that first. So I wrote all the songs all by myself last summer, and then we tracked the record out in Michigan at the Key Club Recording Company in Benton Harbor. And the sessions were in October of 2017, last fall. And those sessions got cut short because my father-in-law passed away, and so then I had to go back out in January to finish the record. So it didn't take that long to make, and it actually been in the can for some months before before the record was released.
Well, are you the kind of guy that writes every day or every week, or do you just need a project to write for?
I'm not the kind of guy that's writing every day and every week. I used to be kind of always keeping notes about, if some idea hit me, I'd, make some kind of record of it, some kind of scribble something down, or even try to make an audio recording. But I stopped doing that. I kind of figure if the idea is good enough, it'll come back again.
So do you have a favorite song on the album?
Well, there are songs which I definitely, really, really liked when I was, making the record, when I was writing, and then it changed for when I was, mixing the record. Then it's changed since we started playing the songs live. I think that, I was real happy with the way, say, Beetle Boots came out. And since we've been touring and playing this record live now, a song like Ghost is a real, is very satisfying to play live, and it always seems to strike a chord with the audience. Yeah, so, that's kind of par for the course, you have things go in and out of favor. But I should stress that it's not like there are songs which I am unhappy with. I wouldn't put it on the record if I didn't think they were up to snuff.
Did you entirely make the album independently, or did you have a record company or somebody that you knew was going to put it out at some point?
I just went ahead and did it. I didn't have any deal with any record label or company beforehand. I just did it, paid for it myself.
So, having made a solo album like this, do you now want to make a band album, or are you just taking things as they come?
The Spencer Sings Hits is not, it's not me all by my lonesome in the studio. I didn't want to, have it be something like that. I wanted to have some other players in there. So there are two guys that are there on the record with me. Sam Coombs, who's from Portland, Oregon, and people know him most of all from the band Quasi. Sam plays the keys. He plays the synthesizer bass. And the drummer's a Michigan guy by the name of M. Sword. And Sword lives in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and he's somebody I got to know from previous sessions at the Key Club. I'd done a couple other records at that studio, and Sword for a period of time was sort of working as the studio handyman. So he's someone I got to know and got to learn that he was a great drummer. So when I was making plans to go out to the Key Club to record this album, it seemed to be convenient and make sense to hit up Sword to see if he wanted to play on it. So Sam and Sword, even the songs were already written, everything was kind of in place before the sessions. They bring a lot of character, a lot of personality to the record, and are responsible for a good chunk of why the record sounds the way it does. We have a tour starting January 11th. We're playing in New York City at Rough Trade in Brooklyn on the 31st. We have we're touring all through January and into February. Sam and Sword are part of the live band as well, and we're joined by a fourth member, my old friend Bob Burt, who was in Pussy Galore with me. So this is kind of like a new project for me, a new band, and I guess you asked what I'd like to do next, and so I guess I'd like to make another record with this new project, and I'd like to very much to continue working with these guys, and we have, as I mentioned, the tour dates in January, and then we have more stuff overseas coming up later in 2019.
So when you were coming up with the album, did you know in the back of your mind that you'd be doing synth bass or that kind of thing as opposed to traditional bass?
Yeah, that was the concept in my head before going into this. I wanted to have bass, but I didn't want to have traditional rock and roll electric string bass guitar. So I wanted to use synthesizer. So that was something made up in my mind beforehand. Also, I knew that I had the concept, the desire, if you will, to use metal percussion. That was something that was formulated in advance. And I think the general, vibe of the record, as far as a kind of a 60s punk sort of sound with the electric guitar, a lot of fuzz and very simple lines, very crude. So all of that stuff was it was in my head. I could hear it, and it was thought out in advance.
And for somebody coming to see you live on the upcoming dates, are you playing anything besides tracks from the new album?
We'll play everything from the album. In addition to that, we will play a couple songs from some. We'll play songs from some of my earlier groups. A couple of Pussy Galore songs, some Blues Explosion songs, Heavy Trash songs, and we have a few covers we like to kick around.
Going back to my question when I asked how often you write, if you're not writing that often, do you have any other creative outlets?
I suppose music is the main thing. That's really the main one. I design. I do some. If we need a shirt design or we need like the album jacket design, I take care of that stuff. So there's some graphic graphic work that happens occasionally. But no, I suppose music is the main outlet. For
somebody that's even been following you for 20, 25 years, all people pretty much know about you is the music. Is there something that you wish more people knew about Jon Spencer?
No, not really. I'm sort of a reserved person, and there's I guess if I'm playing a show, I'm playing a show, and there's a performance there, and I guess if I'm not playing a gig, I'm not on stage, then I'm there's a different side of me, and I guess I'm even a little bit shy. So I'm really happy just being a kind of private, individual. When I started playing in bands many years ago, we didn't have the internet. Now these days, everybody, social media is such a thing, and I try to promote, tour dates and putting out a record through things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and it's okay, but if for me it's just a means to an end. It's not like I really want to share my day-to-day activities or my innermost thoughts to strangers through online through these social media platforms. Well, I suppose maybe it would be good as far as promoting a brand, but I'm just not really into that. I don't want people, I don't really feel the need, or I have no desire to share information such as, what kind of waffles I'm having for breakfast, or what's my opinion about, this author's new book, or the weather today, or there's not really anything that I want to get out there. No.
So in closing, any last words for the kids?
For the kids, vote as soon as you can. Vote, and be kind to people, and try to take care of each other, and let's try to make things better. Because we only got this one chance and this one planet. Let's not screw it up.
Next up is my chat with Chris Barron, a solo artist also known for his work with the Spin Doctors. Chris's latest solo album is 2017's Angels and One-Armed Jugglers, while the Spin Doctors recently celebrated their 30th anniversary with the show at Brooklyn Bowl in New York last month. So the first thing to ask you about is your solo album. Did you have any material that you would record for that album that you were thinking of doing on another album, or is that your only solo album for a while?
Yeah, I haven't made a solo record in quite a while. I had a pretty big backlog of material when I started making the record. All those songs were pretty much written when I set out to make the record. So yeah, no, that stuff was all written.
Were there leftovers that you think that you might put towards a future EP or another solo album?
I've always got tons and tons of songs kicking around, and pieces of songs kicking around, and lyrics and riffs and chord progressions, and sometimes I'll just write a song from soup to nuts as I sit down to write it. But a lot of times I just sort of have like it's kind of like Frankenstein's laboratory. I've got like brains in jars and different pieces of songs kind of lying around, and sometimes I'll come across one of those things like much later, and it'll be sort of obvious how to finish it. And sometimes I'll just Frankenstein a bunch of stuff together, and it'll make a pretty cool song.
And did that ever lead you to wanting to write for other artists?
I've done some writing for other artists. I've gone down to Nashville and done some songwriting down there, and the Blues Traveler have cut a song of mine, and I think I got a couple other things cut here and there. Morgan James cut a couple of my tunes, and yeah, I've had some tunes that were cut by other people. It's not like a huge pursuit of mine. It's always nice when people cut your songs, because then you we're not doing very much work. You got somebody out there, getting a song of yours out there, and it's always nice to get that kind of mailbox money on something like that. But I mostly write for myself. I write for the Spin Doctors, and I write for my solo stuff, and it's a lot of work writing for other people. You only have so many hours in the day, so I'm kind of more into just writing for myself if I'm going to really put a lot of time into something. That being said, it's always flattering and awesome when somebody cuts something that you've done.
Right. So the Spin Doctors, speaking of which, just celebrated its 30th anniversary with a big show at Brooklyn Bowl. Does that mean that the band is going into almost full-time mode again?
Yeah, we've been doing quite a few shows together for a while now. It's the original members, and we really enjoy playing together, and I think we've always had a remarkable musical rapport as a band, and after 30 years, rather than that getting tired or boring, I think it's actually gotten more and more interesting over the years. We just have always been able to play together in this really sort of special, intuitive way. And for your listeners out there who only know us for, our hit songs like Little Miss Can't Be Wrong and Two Princes, I think they'd be really surprised and psyched to see what a strong live act we are.
Right. I remember that the Spin Doctors were one of the bands that was most synonymous with Wetlands, yet somehow you guys, in the long term, weren't synonymous with the jam band scene. Was that, an organic thing, or was that a conscious thing?
I just think, I don't think artists always have a lot of control over how they're perceived. And, one of the things that happened with us was we just had this huge commercial success with Little Miss Can't Be Wrong and Two Princes. Two of our songs became far more famous than maybe even the band itself. And so, I think for the most part, we're known for those two songs. And yeah, I think that was sort of tricks of the industry, that it just sort of fell out that way. We do a lot of improvising live, and we came up with all those guys, with all those jam bands. So, I mean, those guys are pals still to this day.
Now, going back to the hit songs that you mentioned, you're being very modest because there was other big hit songs besides those two, of course. And one thing I'm curious about is when you went from being one of the biggest bands ever to people don't want to know you to it's cool again, did you know all along, like, hey, I'm a musician, or is there ever a moment of, I might give this up?
No way. No, I never considered giving music up. It's never been like people didn't want to know us. We were pretty popular there for a while, but I've been making a comfortable living playing music my entire adult life.
The people who've been following you are definitely aware of the fact that you still had major label albums plenty of years after the fact and all that. But in your case, you never had any doubts that, even if there wasn't millions of albums sold, you never had any doubts of continuing as a career musician?
Never, no. None whatsoever.
And in the case of, you overcame vocal paralysis, which is not a thing that everyone realizes, that didn't, put a doubt in your long-term career?
If my voice hadn't come back, I'd have had to figure out a way to make a living without singing. But, so I did think about maybe, doing more on the writing side of things. When I lost my voice 2 years ago, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll write a novel. And then I ended up writing like a bunch of stanzas of this epic poem with this really complicated rhyme scheme that's sort of based on Homer's Iliad. And so I don't know. I'm not really sure what I would do if I wasn't a musician, because I've really never given it any thought. I got some friends who are managers, and they say that if they have a potential client, they ask them, do you have a backup plan? And if they say yes, that they do have a backup plan, they won't represent them. Because if there is something else you can do, if you could be a certified public accountant or a dental hygienist, music is too hard. You'll stop and you'll do that. If there's any other viable means of making a living, you'll stop doing music and you'll do it. I just don't have another viable, I got nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. So I've never considered anything else because I've never had a backup plan and I don't want one.
Ultimately, is there something that you're proudest of in your career, or is it the fact that you're still doing it the biggest accomplishment?
When we opened up for the Rolling Stones years ago, Ron Wood and Keith Richards were really cool to me and to the band. And I was sitting there on the floor for some reason in the tuning room where I never saw anybody tune anything but a vodka and orange. And I was talking to Keith, you guys are having such a good time. And he was like, why else would you do it? And I, in that moment, I was like 27 years old, like looking up at Keith Richards, like the freaking Pope of rock and roll. And I was like, I want to do this the rest of my life. And standing over me, and like the Pope of rock and roll, like holds forth his hand and he goes, like in a sign of benediction. And he's like, you will, man, you will. And I was like, okay, well, I got that going for me. So, yeah, I don't know. The thing I'm the most proud of in all of this is, I've sort of always intended to always do this. I think the thing I'm the most proud of is I think people aren't really that interested in hearing about how much work this is, and I don't usually emphasize that. There's a lot of sitting around in airports, just being lonely, missing the people that you love, your wife, your kids, cats, and being in a lonely hotel room in Oslo, during the holidays, or just long, grueling tours or crazy plane flights, and then just having to get off a plane and be fresh as a daisy and get on stage. And I think the thing I'm the proudest of is the work ethic. Anybody who's done this for a long period of time knows that there's times where you might be going through something in your personal life, but you got to get out there on stage, and you got a bunch of people who paid for a ticket, and a bunch of people who maybe drove 10 hours, or a bunch of people who got engaged to one of your songs, or somebody who just really looks up to the band, or has just been looking forward to this, or has always wanted to see you live. And there's no excuses. You can't kind of stand by the water cooler the way you would at an office and, have a cup of coffee and just tell everybody to leave you alone because you're grumpy this morning or this evening or whatever. You got to get out there and kind of give it your all, no matter what, and find it inside of yourself. So I think I'm proud of that. I think I'm proud of the fact that I just really take this job. I don't take myself seriously, but I take music seriously. And I think that's what I'm the most proud of.
Any last words for the kids?
Yeah, if you want to be a musician, don't neglect the fundamentals. Be a real musician. Practice hard, and if you practice, you'll get better.
Finally, our highlights from my interview with Hafthor Björnsson, the world's strongest man, who you probably also know from his role as the Mountain on Game of Thrones. He recently worked with Krazy Glue for a very unique collaboration.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for taking your time to talk to me.
First, want to ask, with working with Krazy Glue, did that require any additional training for you or doing anything that you don't normally do?
So, Krazy Glue is known for its strength, and I'm also known for my strength. And just one drop of Krazy Glue can hold 2,000 pounds, which is crazy. I am the world's strongest man, and I can hold just about 1,000 pounds. It's quite impressive, and I'm very happy to be working with them for this project, and I'm also very excited. I have not had to do anything new that I'm not used to, obviously, because strength is one of the things that I am very good at, and so is Krazy Glue.
Absolutely. And I was watching your YouTube channel, and I saw about 2 months ago you put up a video that you were doing a light week. I'm assuming that this is a heavy week for you?
So, I challenge everyone to come there and see what's going to go down that day. Man plus his glue.
It sounds good. Who or what was it that first got you into training?
I've been active all my life. I grew up at a farm. My grandfather was a farmer for over 30 years. So as a child, I remember myself lifting up the rocks, doing all kinds of outdoor exercises. But I started, at a young age, I was playing around with the weights. But I guess I was 17, 18 years old when I decided to take a break from basketball. So I played basketball at my younger years. Tried to build up more muscles. And what inspired me to do so, I guess, was other inspirational athletes like Arnold Schwarzenegger and so on.
And I know that you've competed in the Arnold Classic. Was that something that you had applied to do, or someone recruited you to compete there?
At the Arnold Classic Festival in Columbus, Ohio, and for example, that's one of the most hardest competition to qualify to. You have to qualify yourself to be able to compete there, and it's very hard. So you have to compete in one of their shows to qualify to the Ohio one. The reason why I wanted to compete there was basically just because I competed in strongman, and it's a very well respected show. And only the strongest 10 in the world compete each year to find out who is the strongest. And I actually won that show this year. I placed first place. And after winning that show, if you win that show, you are interviewed by the Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, which is a unique moment by itself. It's very, for anyone in the fitness industry, it's a very special moment.
Is it true that your competition at the Arnold Classic led you to auditioning for the WWE?
Well, WWE, they contacted me a couple of years ago, and they wanted to see if I was interested in, joining the WWE. But I, at that time, was already doing Game of Thrones, already competing in strongman, doing very well there. And I kind of just liked what I was doing, and I didn't want to change my lifestyle. I didn't want to change. I mean, I like WWE, but it's very specific job. You're just traveling, and just beating up some guys. And I want a little bit more different, like other things going on in my life. I wasn't willing at that time to do that.
Now, people in their professions or their industries are usually friendly with other people. They're not necessarily in competition. Are you able to be friends with a lot of other strongmen, or is there just too much competition?
Yes, I am friends with all the guys, but of course, when you're competing on the day, it can get sometimes heated up because we are all in there to win it. We have all put up so many hours, so much sweat, so much of our time into being as strong as possible. I mean, it's just natural that guys get, it can get very heated in the moment,
So I read that on December 15th, your goal is to set an all-time total record in powerlifting. Can you tell me a little more about that?
So yeah, December 15th in Iceland, I am hosting with my friends Thor's Powerlifting Challenge. And I have won everything I can win in strongman. I've won all the big shows. I won Arnold Classic. I won the World Strongman competition. I won Euro Strongman. I won the title in Iceland, Iceland Strongman 8 times. I won basically everything I can win. All the biggest, best shows in the world in strongman I've won. And all in the same year, which is quite impressive. I wanted to challenge myself and go out of my comfortable zone and do something different, something that I'm not used to doing. And that was, for example, competing in powerlifting. I never compete in powerlifting. So this is a huge challenge for myself. I'm doing this mainly just to challenge myself to see how far I can push my body. But I'm also doing it for fun, I like training. I like lifting heavy things. I like to inspire other people, to show people not to be afraid, to show people that if you want to try something, just go for it, do it without, I'm just like right now, I'm 30 years old. I want to challenge myself in every way possible.
And when you are training, does music play an important role? Do you listen to specific music or artists when you are training?
I mean, I have my playlist, that I like to listen to. I do, yeah, but I don't think that people should very much. You have to be able to train with or without music, and you have to be able to train with any music. It doesn't matter what it is, because on the day when you're competing, maybe you don't have the power to choose the music.
I read that you also have your own vodka. Is that true? Icelandic Mountain Vodka?
Yeah, so I have my own Icelandic Mountain Vodka and gin, and that's sold worldwide as well.
Interesting. Can you tell me about other projects that you have going on at the moment?
Right now, I'm focusing on other things like working with Krazy Glue, which I'm super excited to work with. They're super strong and actually just one drop can hold up 1,000 pounds. This is super impressive because I'm the world's strongest man and I can just hold up to 1,000 pounds. Yeah, like I said, right now I'm just focusing on being the world's strongest man, competing in my sports, and doing crazy things with crazy people like Krazy Glue.
Right. Now, the nickname "the World's Strongest Man." How does that make you feel when somebody like Mark Henry uses the nickname "World's Strongest Man"?
Back in the days, back in like 2000, 2001, he was the world's strongest man. He is super impressive man. He won the show the first year he won. The first year that Alvin Classic was being held, he won that competition. And and I'm not sure if people know that, but he was and is super, super impressive guy.
So ultimately, besides you being the world's strongest man and having a lot of projects, is there something that you wish more people knew about you as a person?
I don't know. I'm just a regular guy, to be honest with you. I live my life, I wake up every morning, I have breakfast, I answer my emails, I kiss my wife good morning, I make her breakfast, and I'll start the day.
So just a regular guy that's managing to be the world's strongest man.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, when I say regular guy, I mean, I have a regular family. My family, I'm very close to my family, very close to my father and my mom and my sisters. I have two sisters. I am actually the middle child. But yeah, if I look at myself, I do think I'm just a regular guy. I mean, I might be doing, crazy things, and I've been successful in my life, but I think anyone can be successful if you have a dream and you want to achieve, you want to do something, you just have to put your mind to it. You have to believe. You have to put in work, being consistent, you have to just put in the work. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 plus years. I've been putting in a lot of work. I've been very dedicated, eating my 6 meals every single day, training almost every day. And I've had to sacrifice a lot of things, I haven't been partying, I haven't been drinking, staying out late. I guess I can be sometimes a very boring husband because, my wife might ask me, but can we go for a vacation? And that sentence makes me sometimes nervous because then I'm like, oh man, because I'm always thinking about training, eating, and just making sure I'm getting better. And vacation isn't about that. It's about, relaxing, enjoying each other, and just take your mind off everything, just relax. I find that sometimes hard to do. And that's something that I'm trying to work on, obviously, to make everyone in my family happy.
Said a lot there, and usually I end my interviews by asking people if they have last words for the kids, an inspirational thing. I think you just answered that whole thing.
Awesome. I'm happy. I would love to have you there to come and see me, do some crazy things, with Krazy Glue. I'm super excited to, see what the challenge is.
Thanks for listening to the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz on the Pure Grain Audio Network. More information on the Paltrocast can be found online at www.puregrainaudio.com. Until next time, have a great Shabbos.